meeting to order. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Ms. Barrazo. Ms. Porterfield. Mr. Kosher. Here. Mr. Riggi. Here. Mr. Mutavaran. Present. Ms. King.
Present. All right. The purpose of this particular meeting is to move the agenda item number 2. If the clerk would read that.
Item number 2, a resolution appointing John J. Ferrari to fill a vacancy on the City Council.
Would someone move that to the agenda? Okay, Mr. Kosher, seconded by Mr. Riggi. All in favor? Aye. Actually, excuse me, we're going to do a roll call vote on that. So, let's.
Ms. Barrazo. Ms. Porterfield.
Aye.
Mr. Kosher.
Yes.
Mr. Riggi.
Aye.
Mr. Mutavaran.
Yes.
Ms. King.
Aye. Enthusiastically. So
The motion is carried unanimously.
Congratulations. Now we'll turn to the mayor to do the swearing in.
Do you want to give a little speech? After. It's a proud day for the city of Schenectady, a proud day for the Ferrari family. He is a great addition to the city council. John, if you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, John J. Ferrari.
I, John J. Ferrari.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will support and uphold the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and uphold the Constitution of the United States.
And that I will support and uphold the Constitution of the State of New York.
That I will. One more time.
That I will support and uphold the Constitution of the State of New York.
Uphold the Constitution of the State of New York.
And the Charter and the laws of the City of Schenectady.
And the Charter and the laws of the City of Schenectady.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties.
And I will faithfully discharge the duties.
As a member of the Schenectady City Council.
As a member of the Schenectady City Council.
In and for the City of Schenectady.
In and for the City of Schenectady.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
I'd like to take this opportunity to first thank the members of the Schenectady City Council and to the mayor for hosting this beautiful event this evening and for accepting me as one of your own. I truly and greatly appreciate it. Secondly, I'd like to thank all of you in attendance. You know, it's because of you that I'm here, that your trust and your belief in me to guide this city in the direction that we need to go is such an honor for me. So I promise that I won't break that trust from you. I want to thank you all for being here, and I hope and pray that I can do a wonderful job. And whatever it is that you need me to do, please know that I am here for you. My family has taught me a great value of service not only to my family, but to my community. And I want to uphold that tradition. And again, thank you very much. And I hope you can join us downstairs for some cookies and some refreshments. And I would love to say hello to each and every one of you. And thank you for being here tonight. Thank you.
Before we go downstairs, I just wanted to recognize our new county court judge. Judge Sibnewski is here. Congratulations. And I know we have a lot of other dignitaries, but I'm not going to mention everybody. Pardon? Okay, yes, Assemblyman Santa Barbara is here also, yes, thank you. All right, I will entertain a motion to recess the council meeting. Okay, Mr. Mudaveran, seconded by Ms. Perazzo, all in favor? Aye. We will reconvene up here at 7 o'clock. Thank you. I'm going to call the City Council Caucus meeting to order for November 24th, 2014. We have 3 public hearings tonight. If the clerk would read each of those.
Public hearing number 1 regarding the Downtown Special Assessment District 2015 budget. Public hearing number 2 regarding the sale of tobacco products. Public hearing number 3 regarding convenience stores and secondhand cell phone stores.
All right, then we will move to items for original consideration. If the clerk would read number 1.
Item number 1, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a supplemental agreement number 2 with the New York State Department of Transportation.
Without objection, on consent. Item number 2.
Item number 2, a resolution appointing John J. Ferrari to fill a vacancy on the City Council.
Which we already did, so that one we can pass over. Number 3.
Item number 3, a resolution authorizing the transfer of properties to the community builders.
Also discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 4.
Item number 4, a resolution authorizing the settlement of a claim brought by Erick Blanding.
Discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 5.
Item number 5, a resolution authorizing the settlement of a claim brought by Loretta Simmons.
Also discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 6.
Item number 6, a resolution authorizing the settlement of a claim brought by Marion Hotaling.
Also discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 7.
Item number 7, a resolution authorizing the sale of 1192 Parkwood Boulevard.
Discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 8.
Item number 8, a resolution authorizing the sale of 1602-1604 Foster Avenue.
Discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 9.
Item number 9, a resolution authorizing the sale of 1571 Becker Street.
Also discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 10.
Item number 10, a resolution authorizing the sale of 655 Lansing Street.
Discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 11.
Item number 11, a resolution authorizing the sale of 109 Van Ryan Ave.
Also discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 12.
Item number 12, a resolution authorizing the sale of 4 Elmer Avenue.
Also discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 13.
Item number 13, a resolution authorizing the sale of 1834 Hamburg Street.
Also discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 14.
Item number 14, a resolution authorizing the sale of 218-220 Duane Avenue.
Also discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 15.
Item number 15, a resolution authorizing the sale of 27 Brown Street.
Okay, also discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 16.
Item number 16, a resolution authorizing the sale of 1605 Becker Avenue.
Also discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 17.
Item number 17, a resolution authorizing the sale of 2334 Campbell Avenue.
Also discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 18.
Item number 18, a resolution recognizing the upcoming visit of actor, director, and producer Mahadeo Shivraj.
All right, this was also discussed in committee without objection on consent. This will be a special presentation Mr. Mudaveran will be making later in the week. Okay, item number 19.
Item number 19, a resolution honoring the Hamilton Hill Neighborhood Association.
This will be taken out of order. Mr. Riggi will present that. Item number 20.
Item number 20, a resolution recognizing the month of November as Epilepsy Awareness Month.
Also taken out of order. Ms. Perazzo will present that. Item number 21.
Item number 21, a resolution recognizing Dr. Laura Schweitzer, the recipient of the Schenectady Business and Professional Women's Club Woman of the Year Award.
This will also be taken out of order. Again, Ms. Perazzo will present that. Item number 22.
Item number 22, a resolution proclaiming Saturday, November 29th, 2014 as Small Business Saturday in the City of Schenectady and recognizing small businesses throughout the city.
Also taken out of order, and our new council member, Mr. Ferrari, will present that one. Item number 23.
Item number 23, under Contract and Supply, a resolution awarding a bid for a mid-mount aerial platform.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 24.
Item number 24, a resolution awarding a bid for 2 custom pumpers.
Also discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 25.
Item number 25, a resolution authorizing the purchase of supplies and equipment for the 2014 for the Water Department.
Also discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 26.
Item number 26, a resolution awarding the bid and contract for Erie Boulevard and Knott Street intersection improvements, New York State DOT PIN 1758.00 to Riffenberg Construction, Inc. in the amount of $2,887,550.
This is also discussed in committee without objection on consent. And then we have one item for unanimous consent, item 26A.
26A, a resolution calling for a public hearing related to the approval of the budget for the Upper Union Street bid.
Someone move that to the agenda, Ms. Prazzo, seconded by Mr. Mudavaren. All in favor? Aye. And then to move it to the consent agenda, Ms. Prazzo, seconded by Ms. Porterfield. All in favor? Aye. All right, if there's nothing else to come before the City Council caucus, I'm going to declare this meeting closed, and we will convene the City Council meeting for November 24th, or convene the recessed City Council meeting for November 24th, 2014. And I'll ask you to rise for the invocation by Reverend Rick Frank.
Before I pray, I apologize to everyone for having to leave right after I pray. I have a Bible study that I teach. I'm going to do it right as soon as I'm done here. Please forgive me for not being able to stay. We bow our heads, please. Almighty God, I ask tonight by the power of Jesus' name that your presence will be felt in this place tonight and the power of God manifested here, touching all of these council members and these citizens with wisdom, with understanding. And let all that's accomplished in this place tonight be for the good of our community and for our city. I'm also asking at this time of Thanksgiving that we remember that it is hard to give thanks without directing that thanks to someone. Let us at this time turn our hearts back towards God and offer you thanks for your blessings and the benefits that you pour out upon us. And as families and friends gather together this time of year, let them also remember to give God thanks for his goodness. And for those who are broken and lonely, let us be reminded of the word of God that declares that you were a man acquainted with grief and sorrow, and let them also find comfort in you. Let your presence be dominant in this place tonight, and all of this I ask in the wonderful name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I'll ask our new councilman, John Ferrari, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If the clerk would call the roll.
Okay. Ms. Prazzo. Ms. Porterfield.
Here.
Mr. Ferrari. Mr. Kosher. Mr. Riggi. Mr. Mutavaran. Ms. King.
Present. All right, we have a number of out-of-order resolutions. The first one, I guess, would be item number 19, which is the Hamilton Hill Neighborhood Association. Mr. Riggi?
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the Hamilton Hill Neighborhood Association, come up, please. Neighborhood associations are very important to the fabric of Schenectady. They're what Schenectady's all about. And I came from that same story. I helped found the Neighborhood Association of Bellevue. So they are very important, and they do important work for the community, and that, along with partnering with the city, should be able to make this a better place to live. So I really congratulate all people that are involved with their neighborhood associations, because it's a really important aspect of city life. So with that, could I have permission to read this resolution?
You have the floor.
Thank you. A resolution honoring the Hamilton Hill Neighborhood Association. Whereas the city of Schenectady has a strong tradition of vibrant neighborhoods celebrated for their diversity. And whereas the neighborhood known as Hamilton Hill contains active citizens who are committed to providing a better life for themselves, their families, and their neighbors. And whereas the Hamilton Hill Neighborhood Association continues to take important action to improve their community. And whereas it has sought to make the area more attractive to local small businesses by working to keep the Albany Street litter-free, as demonstrated by its raising over $2,000 for garbage cans and working with Metroplex in the city, placing 15 cans along the business corridor. And whereas the association has undertaken cleanup efforts community-wide, organizing such events at Jerry Burrell Park and the Albany Street Business Corridor. And whereas working with Coena Christian Ministries, the association was able to organize and donation the use of a neighborhood building to the Electric City Bike Rescue, an all-volunteer community where bicycle repairs and maintenance skills are shared with anyone who has a desire to learn. And whereas its annual awards dinner acknowledges leading individuals and businesses that contribute to the improvement of the Hamilton Hill neighborhood. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and City Council do hereby pause in their deliberations to recognize and honor the achievements of the Hamilton Hill Neighborhood Association and thereby encourage other residents of the city to emulate such efforts in their own neighborhoods. Madam President, I move this resolution.
Seconded by Ms. Perazzo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
I would like to thank the Mayor, City Council, Councilman Vince Riggi. We had a long, thing with Hamilton Hill. But, we're trying and we're moving forward. We always clean up. We have the chief of police help us. We have the sheriff, D'Agostino, helping us. And they're, Councilman Vince Riggi always there when we're cleaning. And there's lots of stuff that we're doing on Hamilton Hill. And we're trying to get quality of life in Hamilton Hill. And we hope that all of the city council, the mayor would help us. One person that is missing here is Carl Olson, who helped us. And I miss him dearly. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to say Bethel AME Church, which is on the hill, is host to the Neighborhood Association meetings. And we're proud to be a part of it. And we encourage as many people to come out and support the Neighborhood Association, because it can be done one person at a time.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you again for all your good work. All right, the next out-of-order resolution focuses on epilepsy awareness. Ms. Perazzo.
Madam President?
You have the floor.
Okay. I will be reading a resolution recognizing the month of November as Epilepsy Awareness Month, and I do want to bring to light that Mr. Sanders was pivotal in us pursuing the recognition of this important time, so give credit where credit's due. Whereas Schenectady County is home to over 3,000 people who have been diagnosed with epilepsy, a disease which causes unexpected seizures and sometimes death. And whereas epilepsy is the fourth most common neurological condition in the United States, with more than 150,000 new diagnoses each year, which makes the disease more prevalent than cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, and autism combined. And whereas even with the treatment options such as brain surgery, nerve stimulation, and prescription medication, 4 out of 10 epileptics still experience uncontrolled seizures. And whereas the Epilepsy Foundation of Northeastern New York has been at the forefront of epilepsy advocacy and treatment for the past 30 years in providing free programs and services to those diagnosed with epilepsy and their families, including over 3,000 people in Schenectady County alone. And whereas the mission of organizations such as the Epilepsy Foundation of Northeastern New York is to ultimately find a cure for epilepsy and to help diagnosed epileptics to overcome its challenges through community services, education, advocacy, outreach, and research. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mayor and the City Council do hereby pause in their deliberations to recognize the month of November as Epilepsy Awareness Month, and in doing so, encourage the citizens of this city to better understand this disorder and promote epilepsy research programs and seek new treatments and a cure. Madam President, I move this.
All right, it's seconded by Ms. Porterfield. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Madam President, Councilwoman Peraza, I just would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is something that means a great deal to me and to everybody that has a seizure disorder. I would just, you know, I'm kind of lost for words because I never thought something like this would happen. But let me just say, I'm lost for words. I thought this would never happen to me. But everybody here, you just think, this body here is the first body to ever give this kind of resolution, I think, in the whole Capital District for epilepsy. And it is the first ever. So now it's just going on, and I'm going to do that. So really all I can say is thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means so much to me. I could almost cry. Thank you.
Well, on behalf of the Epilepsy Foundation, I just want to thank you, sir, my best friend already, and Lisa and the council, Madam President, Mr. Mayor, and council people. You know, the hardest thing about epilepsy, I think, is seizure control. But a close second is dealing with the stigma and the misinformation that is out there still about what epilepsy is and what it isn't. And so that's our advocacy efforts are something that we're trying to upgrade, and having the city, you know, give this awareness to epilepsy is a great help in that regard. So again, the foundation thanks you. And also, this is kind of a historic moment because I think it's very rare that someone is a loss for words in this chamber. So we are seeing a couple of very unique things. But on behalf of the epilepsy community and the foundation, we say thank you very much.
Thank you for all you do. Okay, Ms. Peraza, you're up again for the resolution recognizing Dr. Laura Schweitzer.
DPW members, come on. Everybody from DPW. Is that your This is a resolution recognizing Dr. Laura Schweitzer as the recipient of Schenectady Business and Professional Women's Club Woman of the Year Award. Madam President?
You have the floor.
Thank you. Whereas the Schenectady Business and Professional Women's Club is in its 87th year as the leading voice of business and professional women, and whereas each year it honors a member who has served women in the workplace and who has had a positive impact in her community as a whole, and this year's recipient is Dr. Laura Schweitzer, the current president of Union Graduate College. And whereas Dr. Schweitzer's celebrated career as a neurobiologist began when she graduated with a PhD from Washington University in St. Louis and completed a postdoctoral fellowship in neuroscience at Duke University. And whereas her successful career is notable for her contributions to understanding of the relationship between structural and functional development in the auditory brainstem and deafness, as well as the publication of more than 50 scholarly articles. And whereas Dr. Schweitzer is a role model to young women seeking leadership positions and exhorts them to finish their education, work hard, challenge preconceived roles and behaviors, and to be vigilant and help those behind them. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and city council do hereby pause in their deliberations to commemorate the Schenectady Business and Professional Women's Club 2014 Woman of the Year, Dr. Laura Schweitzer, and to present her as a role model for the citizens of Schenectady. Madam President, I move this resolution.
Second by Ms. Porterfield. All in favor? Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you, Lisa. And thank you, Commissioner King and Mayor. Nice to see you. And City Council, thank you. And to the BPW for recognizing me in this way. When I came to Schenectady 6 years ago, when I was interviewing for my job at Union Graduate College, I had come here indirectly through Syracuse, where Nancy Cantor was president of Syracuse University, and she was serious about the role of the university in transforming Syracuse as a city. And when I came here for my job interview, I saw the same potential for Union Graduate College and its role in the community of Schenectady. And I'm glad to see that in the last 6 years we have made significant contributions. In fact, we worked with the mayor this year on a capstone project, and the mayor hired one of our graduates as a result, and we're thrilled about that. But really, I want to thank you for this honor. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say something about epilepsy. So my husband is chair of neurology, and he's an epileptologist. And the one thing I will add to what the gentleman said just before is please have your children wear bike helmets, because so many of those cases of epilepsy can be avoided if they do. They come from head trauma. So please have them use. As adults, they have epilepsy because of bike injuries as children, but as adults also. So anyway, thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Madam President, Mr. Mayor, and City Council, thank you so much for helping us honor this wonderful woman as our 2014 Woman of the Year. Thank you.
And our last out-of-order resolution is for Small Business Saturday. Mr. Ferrari. Mr. Slango, do you want to come up and accept this on behalf of the small businesses in downtown? Or? Okay. Any other small business owners want to come forward?
Come over here.
Yeah.
This is an honor for me to present this resolution, being a small business owner in Schenectady myself. This is a resolution proclaiming Saturday, November 29, 2014, as Small Business Saturday in the city of Schenectady and in recognition of small businesses throughout the city. Madam President.
You have the floor.
Whereas in the United States, small businesses generated 63% of net new jobs created between 1993 and 2013, and whereas 89% of consumers agree that small businesses contribute positively to local communities by supplying jobs, spurring the local economy, and generating tax revenue. And whereas the City of Schenectady desires to promote small businesses during one of the heaviest shopping periods of the year, as demonstrated by findings from the National Retail Federation, showing that an estimated 141 million shoppers spent $57.4 billion on consumer purchases during Thanksgiving weekend last year. And whereas one such small business is Orion's Boutique, a Schenectady business that celebrated its 45th anniversary this past October, and now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mayor and City Council do hereby pause in their deliberations to proclaim that Saturday, November 29, 2014, is Small Business Saturday in the City of Schenectady, and be it further resolved that the Mayor and City Council do hereby encourage residents to shop small and local on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Madam President, I'd like to move this.
Seconded by Mr. Mudavaren. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
Well, I just want to take a moment to say that earlier today, we had a press conference with Mayor McCarthy and the Chamber and the Upper Union Street bid to officially announce Small Business Saturday in the city of Schenectady. And we formed a partnership between our three organizations this year to really bring greater awareness to all of the great small local businesses that are working hard to make this a great, vibrant community. So just outside the chambers is a big blown-up poster telling you a lot of the specials and activities that are happening at some of the participating businesses. But we just really encourage you to get out, shop small, and support all of the great local businesses that really do make Schenectady a fantastic place to live, work, and play. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so it's just a reminder, everyone, shop local this Saturday. There's a lot of our support our small businesses. All right, we are now going to move into public hearings. The first public hearing is, if the clerk would read that.
Public hearing number 1 regarding the Downtown Special Assessment District 2015 budget.
I have two people signed up to speak, Mr. Salengo and Mr. Anacall. Do you have a preference in which order you go?
Good evening, everyone. We forgot our list.
Okay.
I'm Richard Anticola. I think I know everyone who's here. I want to start with my personal building that I own on State Street for the last 30-some-odd years. My building right now has a tax assessment, a tax bill in this current year of approximately $10,000 broken down as you see here. That's the whole tax bill. There's been a lot of talk about how the assessment increase that we're requesting is outrageous. It's too much. It's going to break the bank, etc., which I think, in a word, is total nonsense. Next page. My tax increase on my building is the grand sum of $63. That's the whole thing. I spend more than that for my wife and I to go out to eat sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. So it's $63. When you look at $63, it turns out to be 0.6% of my tax bill. It's a tiny little piece. All right? There were those who would say it's a big increase. They're thinking about downtown 10, 15, 20 years ago. We have a downtown that's a vibrant, operating business altogether. There are still a few places that need improvement, But by and large, you go downtown any evening, the place is humming. And this increase will enable us to market downtown in a coherent way as an entire downtown. I'm done. You're back. I have 3 points. That's one. The second point is the support we have versus, with anything you're going to get naysayers. Right? Motherhood and apple pie are going to find naysayers someplace. And we downtown have our naysayers too. They're a tiny minority of the businesses and property owners that are in downtown. Every year we have a fundraiser, we call it the Building Block Party. Many of you have been there. We have 350 people show up and pay money to help us with their fundraising. So you've got this little tiny vocal minority of people who sometimes will be here to voice opposition to what we're doing. We have hundreds, literally hundreds of people downtown who are owners of property, who have owners of businesses, who not just support what we're doing, but come to our fundraiser and spend their money to show their support. I've said before in this chamber, people vote with their feet in the end. They open a business, they vote with their feet. They show up at a fundraiser, they vote with their feet. Third point. Third point has to do with parity with Upper Union Street. Right now we're seeking, I think, $260,000 worth of total assessment. If we were to have parity with what Upper Union Street is doing, it would be $367, I believe. In other words, there's a cap. There's a maximum amount we can tax.
Mr. Nicole, I need you to summarize.
I am right now. That cap is $367,000 for downtown. We're seeking $260,000. Upper Union Street brings in the full amount of their cap. If we were to do the same, it would be a whole lot more money. This is a bargain. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jim Salengo?
Hello again. I am Jim Salengo with the Director of the Downtown Schenectady Improvement Corporation. I just wanted to just give a little overview of business improvement districts. Business improvement districts similar to the DSIC. They exist all around the state, all around the country, all around the world, and they're created for one reason. They're to provide additional services and programs to enhance the districts that they serve. And because of the DSIC's support from our property owners, when patrons come downtown to eat, shop, or be entertained this season, they're going to see beautifully lit holiday decorations around downtown that are sponsored in part by the property owners and put up by the DSIC. When a company brings important clients into town, they'll be walking on clean sidewalks or getting access to snow-free intersections and crosswalks because of the efforts of the DSIC. When visitors stroll through the public areas of the district this fall, they're not going to have to worry about slipping on a lot of leaves because we take care of a lot of that. When people are traveling up from New York City or staying in hotels or coming in from weddings, they have access to visitor guides that talk all about the great businesses and the houses of worship and the services and the hotels that we have here in downtown Schenectady. Thousands of visitors come downtown for Restaurant Week, for the Wing Walk, for Small Business Saturday, again, this Saturday, November 29th. Our upcoming City Holiday event, which is right here at City Hall, a great community event on December 13th. It's not always glamorous, it's not always the most high-profile work, but these are just examples of the things that BIDs do all around the world for their districts, and these are the things that we do for downtown Schenectady. So in considering the DSAD budget for 2015, please keep in mind that the last time we had any more resources for our programming was, the last time that was approved any more resources was in the fall of 2006, which was 8 years ago. And if you think about the things that were not here in 2006, they include everything from the Hampton Inn to the Proctor's expansion, to Bombers, to Sefke Square, to Center City, to the downtown Slock, to the movie theater, Paul Mitchell School, Aperitivo Bistro, housing for the students down on Lower Union Street, on and on. There was no Restaurant Row as it is today on Lower Union Street. So many changes, and by having the ability to have additional resources to give programs and give services to the property owners in 2015, it would make our staff that much easier to really continue to be truly proud of what we do for downtown and bring changes and positive growth on pace what's happening throughout all of downtown. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I will say the decorations look very, very nice. All right, I have no one else signed up to speak on this public hearing. I'll declare that closed, and we'll move on to public hearing number 2. The clerk would read that.
Public hearing number 2 regarding the sale of tobacco products.
I have 4 people signed up to speak. The first is Jim Calvin.
Madam President, honorable members of the City Council. My name is Jim Calvin. I'm the president of the New York Association of Convenience Stores. We're a private, not-for-profit trade organization that represents the interests of 8,000 neighborhood mini-marts and convenience stores across the state, including retail establishments in Schenectady that would be affected by this legislation. Our members share the City Council's commitment to preventing youth access to tobacco. NIACS itself is a New York State Department of Health approved provider of certified tobacco sales training and has trained over 6,000 retail clerks, cashiers, and managers in the proper procedures for verifying age and thwarting underage purchase attempts. We respectfully oppose passage of this legislation because the advertising restrictions would infringe on commercial speech and because the arbitrary school zone provision is so ambiguous as to permit administrative interpretations that could jeopardize the grandfathering of stores that predate the ordinance. Under Section 192-31.1, paragraph C, no new store selling tobacco products could open within 1,000 feet of a school. But it does not explain how that distance was arrived at, whether it is to be measured in road feet or as the crow flies, or why a buffer zone is needed in the first place. Nor does it address what would happen if a new school were to open within 1,000 feet of the store that sells tobacco. Now, the second sentence of paragraph C appears at first glance to grandfather tobacco-selling stores that predate this ordinance. But in order to be grandfathered, such stores must have a valid certificate of use. This poses a circular dilemma. A mini-mart near a school may already possess a certificate of use as a food store under the existing code, but it doesn't have one authorizing its operation as a convenience store as required in the proposed Section 183.5, because the convenience store definition in proposed Section 264.2 will not become law until this ordinance is enacted. So, will the store be grandfathered on the basis of its existing certificate of use, even though that certificate was issued for a use that no longer exists? Or will the situation be exploited as justification for doing away with that store's right to continue selling tobacco? If a grandfathered store sells the business, will the new owner inherit the right to continue selling tobacco at that location? If not, then the City Council, which will vote, which already voted on a resolution declaring Small Business Saturday, you would be knowingly devaluing, deflating the future value of these small retail businesses, many of which are family-run. Paragraph D would prohibit stores from displaying signage relating to tobacco that is visible from outside the store, raising immediate constitutional questions. Don't businesses have a fundamental right to communicate with their customers by displaying signs within their stores?
Mr. Calvin, I need you to summarize the 3 minutes up.
Thank you. We just want to say that making convenience stores subject to tobacco shops exempt from the school zone provision and the advertising display ban makes no sense to us unless the legislation is explicitly intended to confer a competitive advantage on those tobacco shops. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Sanders. No? Okay. Judy Reitmeyer. Judy here? Oh, okay.
Hello, I'm Judy Reitmeyer, and I am the director of the Capital District Tobacco Free Coalition. And I wanted to share with you kind of the rationale behind not selling tobacco within 1,000 feet of schools. this is what our young people see when they go into one of the convenience stores. And this is, you can see the tobacco products, colorful, attractive, right by the candy. Same with the picture beyond there. We know, research has shown that the sale of tobacco near schools increases the likelihood that our young people are going to smoke. We know that youth go into convenience stores, teenagers go into convenience stores, 70% of teenagers go into convenience stores at least one time a week. They have twice the chance of smoking if they go and visit a convenience store twice a week. So being able to not sell tobacco within 1,000 feet of the schools will decrease the chance of our young people starting to smoke. In 2009, Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act was signed, and that gave municipalities like the City of Schenectady the ability to regulate the time, place, and manner of tobacco sales. Tobacco use is still the #1 cause of preventable disease and death, and we know that the more retailers that are near schools, the more likely our students, the students will smoke. That there are 51% of tobacco retailers in New York State are located within 1,000 feet of schools, so either an elementary school or secondary ed school. I have some maps here, they're small, but I can leave these with you, that show the schools and the tobacco retailers near them. There is no coincidence that cigarettes are sold near schools. 90% of kids start smoking. 90% of smokers start before they're 18. The tobacco industry knows they need to get people to smoke when they're young so that they'll have them addicted for life. Virtually everyone starts smoking before they're 26 years old. So it's no coincidence that tobacco sales happen near schools. I wanted to leave with you, because I don't have a lot of time, another map that shows the density of the retailers in communities with lower income. I really believe that in many ways this is a social justice issue, with the majority of people that are smoking are the poor, the less educated, and those with behavioral and mental health issues. So whatever we can do to help that, prevent that from happening is really going to be a positive thing. And I've got 100 signed petitions asking to decrease the amount of marketing in the City of Schenectady. These are by City of Schenectady residents. So I will leave that and that for you guys. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Reverend Phil Grigsby.
Good evening. I'm Reverend Phil Grigsby, city resident, minister of the United Church of Christ. I wasn't planning on speaking on this issue. I was here for the resolution. When my friend Marv invites me to come, I always try to come, and glad to have that resolution before you. But since the tobacco industry was here, and since another person was here speaking, I figured I would be the only city resident who then spoke on this issue. And I speak as a city resident, not really with all the other hats I wear, but really as a minister in the UCC, and also it's quite personal because living on the north side for a number of years, I grew up with two parents who smoked heavily. Didn't catch up with my mom until she was 82. I caught up with my dad when he was 49. And so those are the challenges of smoking in those days. And so it's personal. But also in college I studied the economics of the tobacco industry, and it was a very interesting study that showed the high correlation between price and tobacco use, which I think we well now know. But being on the north side, I just have a concern for our children. And I think that I commend you for taking up a difficult issue. These are emotional issues that you take a look at. But you make difficult judgments all the time. You have to make decisions for the public good. And you always weigh one side against the other. And so I hope that this legislation and the one that follows seem to be well crafted. I think there's much to commend them, and especially in terms of looking at how the children in our community, because always our communities are judged. How are the least and the most vulnerable being treated? And that's always our children. And I think it's very important to keep children in mind as you consider this kind of thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have no one else signed up, so I'm going to declare this public hearing closed, and we will move on to our third public hearing.
Public hearing number 3 regarding convenience stores and secondhand cell phone stores.
All right, the first person to speak is Jim Calvin, excuse me.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak on this proposed ordinance as well. I find it deeply troubling that convenience stores are being singled out. In this new version of Chapter 183, the nuisance ordinance, the terms bar, drugstore, food store, and restaurant are all deleted, meaning those businesses would be no longer subject to the law. So you now arbitrarily excuse taverns, eateries, and pharmacies from the certificate of use requirement, from the inspections, from the fees, from the penalties. But convenience stores and secondhand cell phone stores are still covered. In fact, under this legislation, the only businesses in the city of Schenectady still at risk of being declared nuisance establishments would be convenience stores and those phone stores. Why? Because this was drafted with a mindset that convenience stores, regardless of their size, location, ownership, or longevity, are the root of all evil, and therefore deserve to be regulated more stringently and penalized more harshly than any other form of commerce in Schenectady. Under the ordinance, you want to force all of us to leave 80% of our window space free of signage or product displays. In a store that's often smaller than 2,000 square feet, that's not just impractical, it's darn near impossible. You want future certificate of use to expire after 1 year so you can make us sweat the renewal and charge us more fees. And you want to rub it in by refusing to honor the certificates of use that convenience stores have already obtained in good faith under the current law that were supposed to remain in effect for as long as the certificate holder ran the same business at the same location. And then out of the blue, you want to limit the hours of convenience stores in residential zones to 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., even if they are duly licensed by the State Liquor Authority to sell beer to age-verified customers for off-premise consumption until midnight, and even though they may rely on the overnight hours for a significant share of their overall sales. You want to tack on 4 new ways to earn a 3-point mark on our nuisance ordinance record. At the same time, you're relieving hundreds of other businesses from the worry of having any nuisance ordinance record at all. Now, many Schenectady convenience store operators are law-abiding retailers, striving to serve their communities, provide employment, pay and collect state and local taxes, support their community, and earn a living. We encourage you to keep them in mind when you consider and address the issues remaining with this ordinance. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Mohammed Hafiz.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Mohammed Hafiz, and I live in Schenectady, and I would like to make a few comments about this ordinance. Well, first, I share a lot of concerns with this gentleman here. He apparently did a lot of study of what changes will be implemented in that ordinance, but I do have a couple of comments here. Well, first, convenience stores serve a large community in Schenectady, but the latest wave of public outrage pictured them as all law breakers and villains. Excuse me. I'm not here to defend any bad elements out there, but I want to bring to your attention that most of these store operators are good citizens. They are trying to provide for their families and educate their kids. Some have limited knowledge of English and have done nothing else but work in similar stores all their lives. Their kids go to school in Schenectady and have some even own their business properties. My concern here is that the city will start enforcing these new changes without properly enforcing the store operator of what's expected of them or properly informing them of the new laws, terms, and conditions. I propose that there will be some legal safeguards put in the orders to protect the owner's legal rights. The gentleman mentioned some legal foundations there for lawsuits, so it's a little warning here, but perhaps afford them a court hearing before the store shutdown occurs. I also propose that the city holds some training session to all store operators before enforcing the new changes. Otherwise, the city will be creating unpleasant outcomes where It will shut down a store, puts the operator out of business, and force him and his family to go on public assistance. Furthermore, shutting down a store for a year is also a hardship for the landlord if he's unable to rent a store for a year. This may result in his inability, the landlord's inability to pay the property and mortgage taxes, be forced to abandon the property, and in the process creating more blight in the city. So I urge you to look again at this ordinance, look at all these other negative aspects or the consequences, because I have a feeling that this was put forth because you want to shut down a few convenience stores for no apparent reason, except that you think that they're creating nuisance. Thank you.
Thank you. Judy Reitmeyer.
Me, back again. And I'm still the director of the Capital District Tobacco Free Coalition. And I just wanted to share that the city of Schenectady isn't alone in the idea of limiting the amount of space on convenience store windows to 20%. The city of Kingston did this about 4 years ago. In an effort to make a beautification of the city, they limited the amount of advertising of any kind of product or any kind of signage to 20% on the windows. They did it to beautify the city, but they also did it as a safety issue so that there could be good visibility into the store and also good visibility out of the store by the owner of the store to what's happening on the streets outside. So, I just wanted to share that, and I also wanted to share that. The smoking rate in the city of Schenectady is the U Matters survey showed that the smoking rate in the city is 37%. The smoking rate in the county, in Schenectady County, is 17.8%, I think it is. And in the state, it's 16%. So the city of Schenectady has a smoking rate twice as high as the rest of the state. So that's something to consider as you're thinking about how to address the sale of tobacco and the, how tobacco products are marketed. And then just one last quick little story I wanted to share was my mother-in-law was 14 when she started smoking. No, she wasn't 14. She was 18 when she started smoking. And my father was 14 when he started smoking, and he died when he was diagnosed with cancer at 59, and he was dead at 64. We really need to do whatever we can to stop our young people. My mother-in-law started smoking when she was 18 or 19, and she also was dead by age 62 from lung cancer and breast cancer. So it's not an issue that goes without consequences, the sale, the use of tobacco. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no one else signed up, so I'm going to declare public hearing number 3 closed. We will move to approval of the minutes from November 10th. Mr. Kosher moves. Is there a second? Mr. Mudavaren, all in favor? Aye. Communications and petitions.
Communications presented to the City Council for Monday, November 24th, 2014. Under official, a letter dated November 19th, 2014 from Paul Lafond, Director of Water and Wastewater, recommending the award of Furnishing Supplies and Equipment 2014 contract be awarded to Ferguson Waterworks, HD Supply, and Tri-Sales, Inc. A letter dated November 21st, 2014 from Christopher Wallen, City Engineer, recommending the award of Erie Boulevard and Knott Street intersection improvements be awarded to Reifenberg Construction, Inc. And a letter dated November 24th, 2014 from Fire Chief Senecal for the leasing of 1 aerial tower platform and 2 fire apparatus pumpers. Under general, there are none. Under petitions, there are none.
Thank you. I'll move to committee reports. Any committee reports? Ms. Porterfield.
Thank you. First of all, under Health and Recreation, as people know, in the budget we have $250,000 that's budgeted to do things in the parks. It sounds like a lot of money, but we have a lot of parks, so it certainly won't cover everything that needs to be done. As of right now, I've already heard from 3 different parks who'd like to be able to do some updates in the park. So the mayor has put together the Parks Advisory Committee, who will be working with the Health and Recreation Committee to help identify what needs to be done in the parks. But more importantly, the goal is to take the $250,000 and to be able to leverage that into more money to do other things in parks, similar to what was done in Quackenbush Park by Tresco Bank and the investment that they made. So it is our goal to do these things and to be able to work with that initiative during the time when the parks are not in use, and not to wait until it's park season and then start on it. So we have been discussing it. We will be meeting about it to be able to do as much as we can with the funding that is available, and so that when the parks open, be able to do those things which have been identified. And it will be something that will be ongoing, not just if every single park doesn't get done this year, or every single thing in every single park doesn't get done, we will still be able to continue that to do the maintenance or improvements or whatever is needed. So we do recognize that and appreciate the people who have reached out. Also, under public services and utilities, I'd like to address an email that came through regarding the DOT project as it relates to disabled business enterprises, and where that information is included in the contracts. In addition to that, we also heard from the Affirmative Action Advisory Board as to where MWBEs are in languages included in these contracts. So I'm asking Corporation Counsel if he could explain where that is included in the contracts and how it's done regularly at the next committee meeting, so that that point is clarified and those questions would be answered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, if not, we will move on to privilege of the floor related to the legislative agenda. I have 5 people signed up to speak. The first is Vicki Hurwitz.
Good evening, Mayor McCarthy, City Council members. I'm Vicki Hurwitz. I'm speaking tonight as a local activist. I'm going to be speaking about item 3 on the legislative agenda, authorizing transfer of properties to community builders. My basic point here is that I'd like to see this project done as a scattered site development as opposed to the way it's being planned. My issue is that the project as it's planned is going to continue to concentrate poverty in the Hamilton Hill neighborhood. The community builders is at the moment seeking $14.4 million in public money to develop 60 units of housing in Hamilton Hill. Part of that money is coming from low-income housing tax credits. Everything else in that pool of money is public. And if you divide $14.4 million by 60, you can see that each of these units is costing $240,000 to build. In 2008, the Daily Gazette quoted local architect Dave Sadowski saying that a 4-bedroom LEED certified home that he designed and was built by Better Neighborhoods at 1005 Glendale Place cost $110 per square foot to build. At 1,650 square feet, this is a cost of $181,500. If you multiply 181.5 by 60, you get 10.8 million. If you subtract 10.8 million from 14.4 million and divide by 181,000, you get 20 extra units that could be built, and these units would be like the 4-bedroom LEED homes that Better Neighborhoods built throughout the city. I personally think the $110 per square foot is a little low, but I'm urging the council to do this kind of arithmetic to see what would happen instead of building the project as it is currently configured with most of the units in 2 multifamily dwellings. Community builders did scatter site development using the city's inventory of tax foreclosed properties. Scattered site development would give potential residents more neighborhood choice in housing. HUD recently came out with revised requirements for its analysis of impediments to fair housing. One of the goals is to reduce segregation and build on the nation's increasing racial, geographic, and economic diversity. Low-income housing tax credits require either 20% of units must be occupied by households at or below 50% of area median income, or that 40% must be occupied by those at or below 60% of area median. Scattered site housing would give our low-income citizens the opportunity to live in many parts of the city instead of just Hamilton Hill. Our local affordable housing agencies build scattered site housing in troubled neighborhoods but can only sell those homes to low and moderate income homeowners. The 105 Glendale Place home I mentioned sold for $85,000, less than half of what it cost to build. This is a $96,000 subsidy for that family. I'm taking this opportunity to suggest that some subsidies also be offered to middle income families to encourage them to move into troubled neighborhoods. As our elected officials, you could approach HUD about this and other creative ways to meet new requirements for the analysis of impediments to fair housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Marva Isaacs.
Madam President, City Council, Mr. Mayor. I want this project to go forward on Hamilton Hill because the people on Hamilton Hill need homes. There's a lot of people without homes, and they need homes, and these homes are affordable, and we need to push this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Melaine Gilmore.
Madam President, Mr. Mayor, and council members. My name is Molaine Gilmore, and I live at 836 Emmett Street in Schenectady, of course. I stood to talk about community builders and the fact that I'm a small business owner, and you talked about Small Business Saturday. The community builders are offering for us small business every day. So therefore I stand to say that Community Builders Project will be in my neighborhood, on my corner. I applaud the effort that they're making, and I certainly applaud the fact that community builders are using the minority businesses. And that's what I stood to say, that since you talked about small businesses, remember the small businesses when you vote.
Thank you. Jenica Huff.
Madam President, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of the City Council, my name is Jenica Petrick Huff. I am the project manager for the Community Builders. I'm here tonight on behalf of TCB to thank you for your warm welcome and continued support of our work in both the Vale and Hamilton Hill neighborhoods in Schenectady. As you know, as most of you may know, we are a nonprofit organization whose mission is to build and sustain strong communities where people of all incomes can achieve their full potential. We have been working in Schenectady for over 10 years and look forward to continue to work with our neighbors and local stakeholders to continue to provide quality housing that people can afford. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary McLean.
Good evening. My name is Mary McLean. I live in the city. Why is Mr. Erickson's resignation being handled differently than Ms. Brucker's resignation? Tonight's agenda item reads, a resolution appointing John J. Ferrari to fill a vacancy to the City Council. When Ms. Brucker resigned, Council immediately appointed Mr. Kozer to fill her seat, and he has been here for many months. During his appointment, he ran to finish her unexpired term for 4 years. He won the election, and there is 1 year left to her term. In 2015, he can run for his own 4-year term. When Mr. Erickson resigned, there was no appointment. Instead, the Democratic Party endorsed a candidate. The candidate accessed the ballot without benefit of petitions, which is a legally required process to run for office. So tonight, an individual is present who did not collect petitions, ran for office, won the election, and now council wants to appoint him to a city council seat. Why is council making an appointment if he already won? Should not the appointment have been made before the November election? Was the election not valid? And does an appointment impact the 3 years left in the term? None of this makes any sense to me. Can someone explain tonight's resolution and why the council vacancy was handled differently? Thank you.
Thank you. I have no one else signed up to speak on privilege of the floor related to the legislative agenda, so I'm declaring that portion of the meeting closed. We will move on to approval of the legislative agenda. Okay, it's moved by Ms. Peraza, seconded by Mr. Fricosier. All in favor? Aye. Okay. We'll now move to privilege of the floor regarding general city business. I have 12 people signed up to speak. The first is Joe Rodriguez.
Good evening, everyone. Happy holidays, and I hope everyone has a safe and peaceful one. And I pray for the city of Schenectady. I'm here tonight because, you know, I'm always here for my street. But my mother-in-law, who's in the hospital, was struck by a stroke on October 3rd. We try to comply with this. So you got one particular inspector that goes around, and to me personally, this is just my opinion, going around and harassing people, whatever. I don't give a damn about that. My concern is he cited my mother-in-law. We ended up going to court. My father-in-law died last year, as you recall, that snowstorm that they couldn't get the ambulance up our street. So let's forget about that. But we got a 75-year-old woman that lives on $1,000 a month, pays her taxes, okay, pays her mortgage from $1,000 a month, to be threatened for arrest if she didn't appear in this particular chamber floor and face a judge. The porch that they threatening, or the citation, is not as dangerous as they portray it to be. To say that you have to come back December 22nd or do something before December 22nd is uncalled for. I can understand if it was like any other blighted buildings that are around the city of Schenectady. I don't see them going around putting signs or threatening the mayor or the council members or anybody with arrest. But you have a 75-year-old woman that's coming, trying to recover from a stroke, had to sit in that round table, because she couldn't stand. And then to be told that if nothing is done, at least tear something down and show that you're doing something. How much work can you really get done between now and December 22nd? Or just forget about the 30 days. But we're talking about a snowstorm coming Wednesday, possibly. How can she do anything in just short notice? All right, so they cited her in June. This guy, there's another house, 2 houses on my street that I guarantee you would not cite it.
Thank you. Marva Isaacs.
Madam President, City Council, Mr. Mayor. They had 3 break-ins on Furman Street. It's home invasions on Furman Street. 95-year-old. They break into those homes and they rob those people. And I think if you could rob somebody, you could go to jail. And I don't care how young you are, you're supposed to be answered for what you did. And those kids, this is the one that beat the nun up on the streets. A woman of God, they throw her down and steal her purse. He needs to go to jail. And the city have to do something about these people, because you cannot rob a 95-year-old woman. She can't do nothing for herself. They went into her house, stole her car, stole her TV, everything. This is getting ridiculous. We need some more protection for our older folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's Enzo, is it Pantano? Pantano, thank you.
Mr. President, Council, Mr. Mayor. This is more, my complaint is more direct about the mayor office. I came 3 years in a row, and there used to be one secretary. I asked that my street for 35 years, and I asked my neighbor, never been repaired. To make short, just before I went to Italy, I came to your office, and I left the phone number written, and nothing happened. The secretary, I think Miss Ains, something like that, asked me, why don't you write an email? Would be better. So I wrote an email showing that my street, I live in Mather Street, and I sent, this is a copy that I included a picture to, so I took time to go around, and I was so upset when my street, that is Mather Street, off Rosa Road, when I saw after Cella Bistro, on the same side, one dead-end street was paved. So I went to engineering too. They say, how do you judge, how do you figure out which one is priority? She said, we go with the traffic. I said, this is a dead end. My street connects Raymond and Girling, is not dead end. So, the point is this, I am upset because you got two secretaries now. And I sent this email May 16. Today is almost the end of November. This is not New York City. What I was expecting, one answer from you that I left the phone, or from secretary, say, look, this problem will be resolved probably next year, because these are 3 years in a row. They say next year. That is my point, okay? And I'm a taxpayer on my house. I pay more than $6,000 a year for 33 years since I'm married. I never miss any payment, like many that beat taxpayer in Schenectady. That's my point.
Thank you.
I will send you another email. I forward again to you.
Thank you. Anthony Carrata.
All right, before I speak, I'd like to just say to the council that I would like them to recognize the ADA, which is the American Diabetes Association, because this month is American Diabetes Month, and every 14th of November is World Diabetes Day, and I just have to be one of 10,000 people who suffer from type 2 diabetes. Now, what I'd like to talk about is the problem with the parks. Central Park and the neighborhood parks. A friend of mine on Facebook and I were talking about this. She refuses to go to Dove Park at Central Park because a lot of people bring vicious dogs to the parks. Now, the other problem is people are doing drugs out there in the parks, drinking alcohol like beer, wine coolers, what have you, out in the parks, and engaging in adult entertainment like sex. Now, you got families with little kids going to the parks like Central Park, neighborhood parks. You don't need to see that stuff. Now, the other thing is the security. Now, supposedly the police force goes there for security. All they do is just sit in their cars and don't get out and patrol the grounds. Now, the idea we had was former police officers and sheriffs to go to parks and patrol, not only in the cars, but out of the cars, walking around the grounds, make sure, everything's A-okay, nobody's doing, the sex or drugs or alcohol. And the thing is that also the vets. Now, this would help the vets out in the community because, see, the vets could also talk to the families about their experience, help with their post-traumatic stress disorder by doing ground maintenance, helping them manage their parks, like Central Park and the neighborhood parks, or even the Rose Garden, to fix that up and stuff like that. And that would help curb some of the problems in parks. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm having trouble reading this next name. I believe it's Nicholas on 838 Main. Okay.
Good evening. I'm speaking on behalf of the Mount Pleasant Neighborhood Association, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, and interested citizens. My name is Nick Walsh, and I live at 838 Main Avenue in Mount Pleasant. I've owned my home since 1984 and witnessed the decline of our Mount Pleasant neighborhood. This decline is especially problematic along Crane Street. We need to improve the quality of life in our neighborhood. The Crane Street Business District must be developed. Rampant vandalism, loitering, and litter are continuous problems. Business owners are afraid to confront the perpetrators because of retribution, such as broken windows and harassment inside and outside their businesses. Potential customers are fearful of shopping what once was a thriving area of Mount Pleasant. We would like to see better, newer camera systems, more frequent monitoring of the cameras that are now in place, as well as more cameras strategically placed to monitor the problem areas. We'd like to see better policeman enforcement of existing loitering and littering statutes and a quicker response when problems occur. Over the past years, a number of businesses have tried to make a go of it on Crane Street. However, the persistent problems are not conducive. We lost a full market and butcher shop. The Mount Pleasant Diner has tried 3 times in the past few years and could not maintain a viable clientele. Gallo Florist and Marcelo's Appliances have left Crane Street, leaving vacant storefronts. We do appreciate the mayor's decision to address the problem of vacant and boarded-up buildings. 3 of the properties to be demolished in his latest letter are in Mount Pleasant. This is a start. Unfortunately, vacant buildings attract squatters and criminals, and once they move into the buildings, it becomes much harder to rehab and sell. Securing these buildings and maintaining a program overlooking the integrity of these structures is necessary. The Schenectady County Metroplex has done a good job downtown and in other neighborhoods. Some projects have been huge successes in Upper Union Street and Eastern Avenue. We do hope this trend continues, and Metroplex would consider the Mount Pleasant neighborhood the most populous neighborhood in the city for such a plan. We understand the need to have a vibrant downtown for Schenectady to progress, but a vibrant downtown cannot exist within decaying neighborhoods. We need your help in Mount Pleasant. Thank you.
Thank you. Mohammed Hafez.
Good evening again. My name is Mohammed Hafez, and I live in Schenectady. I'm also the former president of Mount Pleasant Neighborhood Association. We feel that the city is turning its back on Mount Pleasant. We don't see any economic development plan. The city and the county have not made any effort to keep businesses open on Crane Street. We have just lost the Fastenal Hardware Store, Marcella's Appliance, the Print Shop, the Rite Aid, Frank Gallo Florist. Mount Pleasant has plenty of empty storefront and vacant buildings. Homeowners are underwater because their homes are worth less than their mortgages. The neighborhood is turning into a ghetto. Take a walk up Union Street. You will see bank branches. I counted at least 5. Lawyers, real estate, insurance offices, a huge number of doctors, dentists, and medical offices, and a large number of restaurant eateries. You don't see any vacant stores. You don't see abandoned buildings on Union Street. It's a booming, affluent neighborhood. Take a walk up Crane Street, though. You will find one Trustco bank, a few convenience stores, a few eateries, a large number of vacant storefront and abandoned building. Also, there's one funeral home still operating, Mr. Ferrari. We have a poor neighborhood in Mount Pleasant. So it's a poor neighborhood versus the affluent neighborhood. That's economic inequality. In other words, it is discrimination. However, this discrimination is by design because of the city failed economic effort in Mount Pleasant, while systematically developing other neighborhoods like Union Street, Eastern Avenue, and downtown. Furthermore, the city is continuously granting permits for developers that build new apartments downtown and elsewhere, while not making any efforts to push those developers to fix a large number of vacant and abandoned property in Mount Pleasant. We want to know what exactly is the city infrastructure policy. We want to see fix-it-first policy in Schenectady. We want the city to ask the workers, cops, firefighters, and the teachers to buy homes and live in Mount Pleasant. We want our fair share of federal and state grant money spent on the development of the neighborhood. We want our tax money spent in Mount Pleasant. We want to see real economic development in Mount Pleasant, and we want it soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Betty Murphy.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Betty Murphy, and I'm here to talk about loitering and littering in Mount Pleasant. The New York State Penal Law and Chapter 192 of the City Code both address loitering and littering. It is against the law in New York State. It is not up to the store owners and residents to remove loiterers or the litterers. This causes fear for the store owners, as retribution among criminals is what will happen. Police need to enforce the law. It is unfair to property or business owners to have to live in fear. Chapter 192 defines loitering and explains littering and the penalties. Police should be enforcing this ordinance to prevent retribution for the store owners, property owners, and other residents of Mount Pleasant. The code is useless unless it is enforced. Getting these two topics under control by enforcing the city code as it is written would be a huge improvement for Mount Pleasant. When people are paying fines and facing jail times, this should change their way of thinking when they are about to drop a soda can or a candy wrapper or any type of debris on our sidewalks and streets. This should change the quality of life in Mount Pleasant and improve the prospect for people to want to live in and do business in Mount Pleasant. Enforcing the code should be citywide, and when the word gets out that the code is being enforced, think about the advantage for the entire city. Remember, if you are not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. Thank you, and I would like to thank Pat Smith for all her efforts, Mohammed Hafez for the use of his office, Donna Foley, Nick and Lillian Walsh, and all the wonderful people of Mount Pleasant for wanting to make Mount Pleasant a better, safer part of our great city of Schenectady. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Smith.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam President, and distinguished council members. I'm Patricia Smith, and I am the president of the Mount Pleasant Neighborhood Association. I have lived in Mount Pleasant for 27 years. My grandparents lived on Teaneck Avenue from the time of the Depression until 1979. I'm here to speak on some of the issues concerning Mount Pleasant. First, the cameras at the various locations. Are they being checked regularly for proper function? Do they all work on a 24/7 basis? We appreciate the cameras, but they all must work as we depend on them. Street lighting. There are areas of Mount Pleasant where lighting is almost non-existent. Lighting deters criminal action. What can be done to remedy that situation? We need police patrols. This is a fact of life. Officers are limited in number and other areas need patrols. I personally have seen patrol cars stationed at key locations on Crane Street at various times and days. The police department does a good job as much as possible as to with the resources they have. It may help if there were an officer walking the beat from 11 to about 10 p.m. The city's efforts and some of the programs are appreciated, but other programs can be started to cut down on crime and the unacceptable behaviors in Mount Pleasant. For example, tossing trash cans, destroying flower beds, and tearing up people's properties, just to name a few. Store owners are reluctant to chase loiterers away, as retribution in the form of broken windows and doors are the main occurrence. Customers of those businesses are increasingly cautious about shopping in Mount Pleasant. The streets appear to have the look of the aftermath of a small tornado, with all the litter and broken windows on the buildings. Not all store owners discourage the loitering, but most prefer that it was not prevalent. The city has done a good job with some of the raids, but the persistent issues are people who litter, loiter, and cause the damage. Our group would like to sit down with the powers that be and discuss some of our ideas for solutions. We are here to stay. This is our neighborhood, our homes, our little piece of the world. We are not to be ignored, and we are willing to work with the city to make this a great neighborhood once again. Many of the buildings on Crane Street at this point would make a great backdrop for a movie about the 1930s Great Depression. It's not a compliment. 929 Crane Street, a foreclosure, has broken storefront windows, and people are now using this to gain access to the building, including the apartments upstairs. This is a tragedy in the making. We would like to see a program to help families who can afford a mortgage but who are short on the down payment to obtain home ownership, thus taking pride once again in the neighborhood. We need a change in the face of the Mount Pleasant neighborhood as well as the attitude. There are still too many people living here, owners and renters, who want to call Mount Pleasant their home and need the city to actively help us. Please, put the pleasant back in Mount Pleasant. Thank you.
Thank you. Flora Romanowski.
Good evening, Mayor, Chair King, and council members. First of all, congratulations, Mr. Kosher and Mr. Ferrer. So we have your lovely faces before us. I support all that my neighbors have spoken to you today, and these are my concerns. Could be my friends and maybe not, so I want you to understand that this is coming from me. To the public out there, I don't know if you know some of the area, but Mount Pleasant has the largest growth of population, including many single-parent homes in which we deal with unsupervised children running around. That's just from our own neighborhood. And then we have also a growth of elderly who are finding it very difficult dealing with a lot of And then we have the influx of students from other neighborhoods into Mount Pleasant Middle School, Steinmetz, Pleasant Valley Elementary School. I call it a little cul-de-sac. You have tremendous amount of students in that area. And also, we have the sports fields in that area, the Little League field, tennis courts, all in a very congested area. And cars are parked on both sides and children running in and out. So I would like to make a correction here. I thought I read in the papers where Mr. Fred Leaf was planning to put another boys club from another neighborhood into Mount Pleasant. He said that he has nothing to do with it, but it is in the plans. And what makes anyone think that it's a good idea to promote more population in that area? We already have a boys club and girls club. What I could suggest is some grant money. I understand there's going to be some demolitions over in the other neighborhood, and build a nice boys and girls club for them, a nice new one. Crane Street, this is a little tongue-in-cheek. From 3rd Avenue down to Broadway, the street is absolutely horrible. And I've been told that it can't be paid due to the old trolley car tracks. We've had trolley car tracks all over the city, so I'm not sure what that... If this is the case, uncover the tracks, put the trolley car back, and raise the buildings and put green spaces on each side with benches, and everybody can get off the trolley car and have themselves a nice time. More seriously, I've taken issue with the supervisor of schools because I haven't ever heard him say anything about the trauma of abuse and assault of the children who are going to school that want to be educated. He needs to talk to my son, Robert. He went into a new school when I moved up in this area, not Schenectady, and he was getting along with kids. He had friends. He was doing good in school, in sports. One child, teenager actually, was beating him up. I'd get calls at work. A knife was pulled on him. He had concussion. He had to hide in the hallways. Little by little, this troubled child threatened the other kids to the whole school. I had to drive my son to work. So that's the main reason I moved to Schenectady, because at the time, Troy and Albany was having problems. And I had one day to find a place. And I'm already finished? Wow. Okay. So that's what can happen, and he's still paying for that abuse and these other children. Don't forget to look up on your computers about little Malela, who's in a war-torn area, got a Peace Prize. And then maybe the school children will say, hey, we don't have it so bad. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Frank Wicks.
I guess after hearing the people from Mount Pleasant, my own concerns may be insignificant on a personal level, but I think they're important in terms of the city. We had a woman here, Ms. Coleman, reported police entered her home and violated her privacy and family. I had an experience, probably less serious, but no, I was threatened by a policeman, Jonathan Moore, and ultimately police Patrick Morris fabricated an offense, violated my family by opening the car door, lied in court, and said he couldn't talk about it afterwards. Well, this was observed by a citizen. The citizen who saw it on the spot that night told me I ought to do something about it. I didn't know what to do. He called me the next day and again told me I ought to do something about it. I guess my choices are where to forget about it, try to forget it, assume I couldn't do anything, or sue. I didn't want to do any of those. So the best alternative is to use this as an experience to try to reshape the police department Schenectady in a favorable way. And I got the two proposals. One is what we have there in Ferguson, Missouri. Part of the problem is the police department's too impersonal. And the same problem in Schenectady in every city. Maybe it goes with territory, but they wear intimidating uniforms. They have the guns. They're isolated in oversized vehicles. And they're in a police station that looks like a bunker. So that's why a shooting death in Ferguson, Missouri, has caused months of demonstrations, concern, and I guess the grand jury is going to report at 9 o'clock tonight. So everyone's braced for that one way or the other. But going back to Schenectady, and we can do something in Schenectady that can be copied around the country, and that is basically make policemen less anonymous. Have them wear uniforms, have them wear numbers, have a web page where any citizen can observe the behavior of the policeman and report it on the web page. Most of the policemen are very good people here. They work hard, and I've actually discussed this with some of them, the ones I discussed with, and I can see the merit in wearing uniform, wearing numbers. No, they don't want to be anonymous. They want to be people. The other thing is police overtime is really excessive. It's really what's robbing the resources from Mount Pleasant. They obviously need police protection, but the police that basically, Patrick Morris is the highest paid policeman on the department. He makes a problem where it doesn't exist. We had the Commissioner Wayne Bennett wants another up to $100 million for police overtime here beyond what you have right now.
Mr. Wicks, I need you to summarize, please.
Okay, it's really a blank check. So my proposal is get rid of all police overtime, and put in any company, if you need overtime, you apply for it as needed. So this is the way Schenectady ought to budget their overtime. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary McLean.
Good evening again. My husband is an engineer. He helped put the first man on the moon. The piece he worked on is on exhibit in the Smithsonian Institution. When the space program was cut back, my family moved to Virginia, where my husband built and tested nuclear-powered ships for Admiral Rickover's Navy. Had I won a seat on City Council last year, I would have been in a position to get a second opinion when the city was faced with an engineering issue such as the pump station in the stockade. Folks, the city does not need a new pump station. No one on the city council has the academic credentials, knowledge, or expertise to tell this community that it does need a new one. The best interest of this community was not served with council's affirmative vote. That yes vote was all about the 2015 council race and pandering to special interest groups, which brings me to the budget. When is the city going to sell the city cars? Only Schenectady employees drive city cars home to wait for emergencies. Did council look at the PBA contract? The seniority system is wrong because it discriminates against the rookie police officer who straps a gun to his waist just like the senior member. The rookie officer puts his life on the line every day at work. The seniority system costs the taxpayers too much money, and if challenged, it would not hold up in court. Get rid of it. The mayor said he was looking for equity in the budget. For whom? Where is the equity when the sanitation workers can go home after finishing their route, even when there is still time on the clock and taxpayers pay them for 8 hours work? No equity for the taxpayer. Where is the equity when a citizen points a gun to a fellow American and gets to stay home for a year with pay? So much largesse from the taxpayer. Was he a pillar of society, an exemplary model citizen? Stay home for 1 year with pay? That's equity? How so?
I need you to summarize, please.
2015 is not a taxpayer-friendly budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Joy Hall.
I'm Joy Hall of Schenectady. Mount Pleasant is not the only place that's got problems. There's problems everywhere. We got problems with safety. These cars are turning into one-way streets going the wrong way. I want cameras put up to catch these drivers going the wrong way, and the speeders. It's got to stop because they're speeding everywhere. Millard Street, Broadway, Erick Boulevard. You got seniors walking the street and can't get across. It's awful. And on Millard Street, you need to put the walk light up for the seniors. It's got to be done before somebody else gets hurt, because enough has happened already. So we got to get at it. I said the cops have got a big job on their hands, and I know it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I have no one else signed up to speak on privilege of the floor regarding the city business. I'm sorry? Okay.
Hello, Madam Chair, Mayor. My name is Reverend Emmanuel Adams. I'm Associate Minister up to New Bethel Community Church of God in Christ up in the Bellevue area. I just came down to hear what things are going on and being involved. And I do hear the concerns of a lot of our seniors that are speaking, and most everyone that is there, seem to me, everybody's over 40 anyway. I'm saying that we do have a crisis that's in our city. Therefore, and I'm really talking pertaining to the Hamilton Hill clergy. Therefore, getting into the mentoring program or mentoring in the schools. We are losing, and we're like throwing money to the wind when our children be incarcerated and things, because there's nothing that comes out of that. But we know if they finish school, therefore we can get some benefit from that, even if they're able to take care of themselves, at least they can get out of the house. So I'm saying is therefore that we're looking for mentors too to come in to help this situation, because it really does take a village to raise a child. The city council can't do it by itself. The city can't do, the school can't do it by itself. County legislators cannot do it. We all have to do this. And we're really dealing with attitudes of our young people today, and we're really paying a very high price for that. We have a couple of generations that we have lost somewhere, and we're reaping those benefits that harvest is coming in and why their behavior is the way they are. Because there was a sense of lack of instructions, a lack of concern in things. We have a community that are one-parented household. A lot of young mothers out there trying to survive. Some have made mistakes and things, but it's very hard. It's hard to do it by yourself. But the brunt of that, what we're getting, is the behavior of our children. And you might not say that it's not my child, but it really is your child. Therefore, because he's the one that's tearing up our properties. He's the one that's bringing threat into our community because there's a lack of control. But if we can just come together, therefore, and that's what we're trying in the clergy group, to come together and try to mentor these kids and trying to save as many as we can. Won't be able to save them all or try, amen, but at least we can slow it down. And I think we have to do something in that manner because we know there's a lack of jobs, the economy is down now, young people have nothing to do, there's a lot of people that are dwelling on the streets, a lot of influx. But we've got to find a way that we kind of encourage them to turn from the ways that they're going, their attitudes. Therefore, because their attitudes is what really hurts us. When they throw a piece of paper on the ground, then if somebody says, well, maybe you ought not want to do that. You know, you live here. But nobody's telling them anything. So I'm just saying that if we all could do that, have that in mind, you know, to tell our child, to tell someone, you know, with all this wisdom and knowledge, we got thousands of years of experience and knowledge, amen, that have built, and here we in our later years, I'm part of that core too, that we're trying to, you know, relax now or do something, but here we can't. Now we're really on alert because we have a lot of things that are happening. So if we could just come together, you know, find a way that we can deter some of these things that are happening in our community, in every community. You know, Mount Pleasant, Hamilton Hill, over on Union Street, whatever, because these things are happening all over.
Okay, Reverend Adams, I need you to summarize, please.
So I just come and I want to ask, you know, saying, look, just taking these things in consideration. What can we do? And it's not all of you, but it's also for the community to take part in these results if we're going to ever change anything. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I am now going to declare this portion of the meeting closed. We'll move to miscellaneous business of the council. Mr. Riggi.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank everybody that came down tonight, especially the neighborhood associations. They're bringing some valid concerns to us, and I think we'd be remiss if we don't address these situations. Just so you know I had to bring a question that I had with an email to the police command department and about addressing some of these issues. And I did have a meeting with them, and they did agree to direct the patrol officers to ticket people for littering, loud music, and these quality of life issues. I was told they were also going to be either a press release or better yet a press conference to go along with this, and Chief Kilcullen did promise me that on 2 occasions, but it's never happened. We have to let people know that we are targeting these things, and as Reverend Adams brought up, the penalty for somebody throwing something down on the ground, guess what? The penalty is you get a ticket. That's what the penalty is, and you have to pay a fine. That's what sends the message. That's what the message has to be sent. These people are trying to protect their neighborhood. Mount Pleasant, of course, we all know, I'm old enough to know, it was a vibrant neighborhood. It's my wife's neighborhood. The street that she grew up on now is like a war zone. It's very, very sad. We have to address these issues, again, to get people to want to move back to the city, to build the tax base. We have to address these quality of life issues. I keep harping on this because it's been my contention for a long time that this is where it starts. We have to address quality of life issues to make this city a better place to live. I'm glad people are standing up. and speaking about it because that's what's needed. There's no question in my mind about that. The broken window, we talk about broken windows, that's the broken window theory. That's what works. When there's one broken window, you're going to have dozens of broken windows. So we have to fix the broken window. That's really where it's at, and I'm willing to work with anybody to try to move this forward. Hopefully, the police department will at least send out a press release that they are behind a campaign to address these quality of life issues. That's at least 2 months ago, and it hasn't happened yet, and I hope that tickets are being written. I'm not really quite sure about that, but I think the message has to be sent out loud and clear that we're going to address these issues, and it will certainly help our whole program, and the Mayor's Homes program is all going to help things together, but we can't let the neighborhoods go to seed. That is the fabric of Schenectady. It isn't just certain areas of Schenectady that's a fabric. It's the neighborhoods that is the lifeblood of Schenectady. These are the people that are paying the taxes. These are the people that stayed the course. We don't want to push them out of the city, that's for sure, and ask them to move somewhere else. We had our 50th, hate to say it, high school reunion about a month ago, and the members of my class, which is about 350, there was probably about 100 that showed up. There was only a small handful of people that still lived in the city of Schenectady. It's kind of sad, and it's heartbreaking to me to think that. And some people didn't move that far away. It isn't that they went all to different places, but there's reasons that people choose to leave the city, and part of the high taxes is part of it, but again, part of the fix for high taxes is to build the tax base. That's part of the fix. Get people to want to move back here. And it's a good thing. We sold 11 houses today, and that's a real good thing. That's very good because those houses will be on the tax roll, so that's a real good thing. But let's make those streets safe. I mean, I don't even know what to say about, bad enough, an 84-year-old person was assaulted for a pocketbook, but an 84-year-old nun wearing her habit, what does that tell you about the problems that we have here? I can't get that out of my mind, that somebody would choose to do that to someone that's doing good. And I got to give Sister credit. She's going to pray for this individual, and that's the right thing to do. And I think we may need a lot of prayer for Schenectady to get things on the right track. So just switching gears, talking about the DSIC budget. I know one of the speakers said there's only a few naysayers. Well, I've heard that all my life about just a few naysayers. Well, those naysayers, their voice counts also. If it's only a handful, if it's 5, 6, 10, whatever it may be, who knows what it is. I field a lot of phone calls that people are upset about this. Not that it's $60 or $100 or whatever it is, the total of the tax bill. What's the total increase on what they were paying for that special assessment? That can go up to 28 or 30%. And that, I don't think, is acceptable. If we propose that to our constituents on our property tax bill, I think this room would be full and overfull down the corridor if they were facing a 28% increase. It's something we have to look at. Most of the complaints I get is they're not involved in the process. They don't feel they're involved in the process and where their money's being spent. That's one of the main concerns that I get. So I think it's something. I did send some questions to Mr. Shalango and has some of the answers, but I'm concerned about our churches, which are being assessed, and how much it's going to be, because our churches are barely holding their head above water right now. So that's, and I'm waiting for an answer from him on what churches are assessed and how much their assessment is going to be raised. Because I know St. John's, which is a big church, I think they probably face a pretty good raise in their assessment. So anyhow, with that, I wish everybody here and my colleagues a blessed and happy Thanksgiving. It's a good time for family to get together and enjoy and think about good things. But let's work hard to try to make 2015 a better year for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Porterfield.
Thank you. And I'd also like to thank everyone that came down tonight. I know the Mount Pleasant Neighborhood Association has worked a long time to do a lot of things in the neighborhood, and they're have made some success. And to that, I can say keep trying. I know from personal experience living in a neighborhood where it's challenging sometimes. And I also think that working with the city, we can certainly address some of the issues that they've brought today. In addition to, in regard to the convenience stores, there were some good points that were made by the speakers tonight in terms of people that run convenience stores, or they're just trying to make a living for their family, and that not all convenience stores are places that attract people that you would prefer not to have in your neighborhood. So I think that we should definitely take into consideration the points that were made, and I want to express that I personally do not feel that it's really meant to target people and get them, target hardworking people who are really trying to make a living. I just want to specifically talk about the 20% of window coverage, and to say that's something that's done because of something called DSAD, Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design, and the other speaker woman spoke about it, didn't call it specifically by the name, but it's a safety issue so that people can see out and people can see in if something negative is going on in the store. So it's not so people can't display what they have to sell, but to make sure that people are safe on both the inside and the outside. And with regard to the project in Hamilton Hill through the community builders, as a resident of Hamilton Hill, I want to say again that I support this project. I've certainly had concerns about the building at 602 Craig Street that has stood there for quite some time. Although there have been efforts to sell the building, it's never been sold, and I think we can probably figure out why. But now this is an opportunity to turn that into affordable housing, where people that live in the neighborhood currently can afford to live. And one of the concerns often when there's a neighborhood that has some development in it is gentrification. This project does not gentrify the neighborhood. It allows affordable housing for people who live in the neighborhood to live. And so I support the project, and again, it doesn't leave vacant buildings on a street that would have three very large vacant buildings for just broken windows and all the other things that take away from the quality of life in the neighborhood. In addition to that, we've really worked hard to try to bring different businesses to the neighborhood, and my hope is that when you improve the neighborhood, it will attract other businesses to come there as well. So I'm looking forward to working with that and to making sure that people in the neighborhood benefit from it. One of the speakers did talk about a small business benefiting from that. And part of when someone comes to a neighborhood to develop, it's important that the neighborhood benefit from it as well, and those have been our conversations with community builders. And lastly, I'd just like to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Parazzo.
I want to say congratulations to Mr. Ferrari and express that it's very good to be 7 again. I think it's a healthy way for the council to operate, and I'm happy that we are at full capacity. And I also want to recognize the law department's hard work and the mayor's hard work, and also the council's hard work at moving those properties through. And it was nice to have a nice long list of properties. And I guess I just want to make a comment on how I feel about some of the council remarks tonight. I think it's unfair to say we need to start to address the quality of life issues, because I think there's a tremendous amount of people in this city that have already started to address those quality of life issues. I think when we look at active neighborhood associations like Mount Pleasant, like Bellevue, like Goose Hill, like the many neighborhood associations that we have, and we look at community cleanup days, and we look at people that are out in their neighborhood picking up litter and things of that nature, we've already started. We look at the mayor's initiatives in all of the hard work that we did with getting the land bank and the grant funding to get rid of blighted properties. We are working hard, and we'll continue to work hard, and it's a slow process. It was a slow process to get us here. The neighborhood I grew up in is in very poor shape, but it was not for a long time. It was a slow process to where we are now, and it's going to be a slow process, and we have really moved forward a lot. We have a lot more to do, but I think to discount what's been done is not fair. And then on the other side of things, when it comes to the police and ticketing and things of that nature, I think that would be great, but I also see where our police are doing more with less all of the time due to budgetary constraints and how hard we all work on the budget and what those constraints look like, and the fact that we're dealing with sometimes with emergencies and don't have the personnel to write tickets. But I will encourage all of my colleagues to go and work with the neighborhood associations and come up with a program. Come up with a program to cover graffiti. Come up with a program to pick up litter. Come up with a program to, rotate neighborhoods and work once a month with a group of volunteers. Because just like our neighborhoods, that it's up to all of us, it's our job also to move those initiatives forward and to help the people of our city. And I'm very proud to be a member of this city and very proud with how far we've come, and I continue to work hard going in a forward direction.
Thank you. Mr. Kosher.
Thank you, Madam President, and I too would like to officially welcome a good friend and fellow councilman, John Ferrari here, and thank you all for your support this evening as well. Again, speaking as a member of the Public Safety Committee, I would like to offer our services, maybe perhaps as a speaker, to come to maybe your January or February meeting, Mr. Multivaran, or your chair. Perhaps we can attend one of those meetings, January, February, and of course all the council members as well, to address some of the concerns and hear what is really happening. My wife is a school nurse in Hamilton Elementary School, and I drive by there down Crane Street every single morning, and I see exactly what we're talking about, the situations that's out there. So I think as council members, we certainly have concerns for the entire city, but again, I'd like to make myself and again my colleagues available to, again, possibly the January, February meeting, if available. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce, Schenectady Chamber of Commerce, for a wonderful holiday parade they had over the weekend. The weather, unfortunately, didn't cooperate 100%, but it was just a wonderful event, and I know several of us were there, Councilman Riggi and the mayor, and some of our county legislators and other elected officials. But again, thanks to the Chamber for organizing that event for, I don't even know what year this is, Lisa, perhaps? It's way up there, I know that, but again, to Chuck Steiner and to Gail for their, and of course to the numerous businesses and organizations and schools that participated in the event. And we had an over and under bet for how many fire trucks were in the parade, and it was actually 27 fire trucks that were there, so it was quite a nice evening as well. And I just want to express the support to the community builders, and thank you very much for what you folks are doing. Believe it or not, I had the pleasure when I was on the City Council back in 2002 to vote for the project, the Vale Community Project as well. And that's when Mayor Brian Stratton was here and Sharon Jordan was involved. And again, they did it right from the start. You had the community input. You had several community meetings. All of us participated. And again, the community, Hamilton Hill and Mount Pleasant, we were all participating as well. But I think it's a great project as well. We talk about the broken windows and the blight that we have here. But that building has been vacant far too long. And the Hamilton Hill community certainly needs that and deserves a brand new project like this in the area. And we talked about this downtown Schenectady when it was all vacant, and we're looking about putting apartment spaces and offices in downtown Schenectady, and folks were even back then saying nobody would come. Who would want to rent an apartment in downtown Schenectady? And folks, you can't even find a studio apartment in downtown right now. So you build it, they will come. And again, thank you for all you folks have done and our complete support on that. And again, as well, thank you and our happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Thanks to all those organizations, the nonprofits and the students and the youth and the seniors and folks who have been handing out community baskets and donating food goods. It's just been wonderful. I've been to a couple of events out there, and it's very heartwarming to see, especially our youth that have been out there and participating. So God bless to everybody and the families, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Multivaran.
Thank you. Mr. Ferrari, congratulations on your appointment, and congratulations on winning the election. Looking forward to working with you. Just to touch on the Mount Pleasant Neighborhood Association, I want to commend them for coming out this evening and speak on behalf. I do live in Mount Pleasant. Myself and the mayor had several discussions about ongoing activities in Mount Pleasant, and there have been increased police presence, and we have seen some changes, but we still need to do some more in there, like all other neighborhoods. Mount Pleasant we have their demolition is going to be starting soon there, and I have talked to the police chief and the commissioner, and there have been some changes. We would like to see more happening there, but you know what? with the small amount of resources that we have in the police department, it is spread so thin, and it's ongoing dialogue with the police department, the mayor's office, and we will see positive change in Mount Pleasant. As holiday season coming up, I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Do take some time to spend with your family, and also please remember the unfortunates and share. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank everyone for coming down tonight and expressing some of your concerns. You know, it was 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, I came into this office, wanted to try and restructure things so that we were doing things that really produced long-term results. And I wanted a more coordinated response to our neighborhood problems. And we've done that with our code sweeps, where it goes through, we try and do each of the neighborhoods, we try and do it in a polite manner, then we serve them with notice, then some people who still disregard that, we get them into court, and we've had some very successful prosecutions on that. I understand people are frustrated, and we know you're out there, we're trying to work with you. If you have specific complaints or things that need quicker response, don't hesitate to call my office, to call Commissioner Bennett or Chief Kilcullen. But I think that we are, again, producing results, but they are slow and incremental. We've done things in trying to do in all the neighborhoods, so we're not playing a neighborhood off against each other. Mount Pleasant, we did the tennis courts, which is really a significant resource, not only for that neighborhood, but for the whole city, where it brings a lot of activity in. It's U.S. Tennis Association's junior division moved their headquarters from Syracuse. They now do tournaments here in Schenectady. And that benefits not only the activities in the facility in Mount Pleasant, but uses the facilities in Central Park. We're looking at how do we improve Orchard Street Park. We're going to start our first round of demolitions. We're going to have those bids are coming in on Wednesday. 6 buildings will go down. They're the worst of the worst. 2 of them, it's one at 1150 Cutler Street. It's been an eyesore for far too long. 1065 Pleasant Street is going to be one that's going to come down, so that there are, it won't completely make people happy, but we are trying to send the message out that we are addressing the issues, we are taking it serious, and we are trying to do it in a manner that produces long-term results and greater value. I joined with 4 other local mayors 2 weeks ago, part of a White House challenge to end veterans' homelessness, where we're focusing on the veterans. It's also looking at homelessness and housing opportunities for everyone in the community. So you may have some people that are fairly affluent and can afford more expensive, higher-end apartments and houses. We want them, but we also want to make sure that we have housing that's affordable to middle-class people, to working families, and we're bringing them into the neighborhood. And so the things that we're undertaking, again, hopefully will all dovetail together and complement each other over the long term. On Friday night, I authorized some of our employees to the governor's office request to respond to Buffalo, where we've had 4 crews out there doing snow removal, assisting them. I'm not sure when their 12-hour shift ends. When it ends tonight, they're coming back to Schenectady so that they can rest up a little bit, and then want everyone to have a happy and joyous Thanksgiving. But there's a good chance we're going to get a little bit of snow on Thanksgiving, so remind people not to shovel their snow into the sidewalk. Take 1 shovel on each side of a fire hydrant where it keeps it open in the unlikely event that it has to be utilized. It makes it much easier for the fire department to respond. Again, Mr. Kosher pointed out that we had another successful holiday parade. It was a great time for everyone, got a lot of people downtown. Saw some of the expanded lights from the DSIC. Again, it is brightening up the community, and encourage everyone to participate in Small Business Saturday, where it kind of focuses on our local businesses, owner-occupied businesses here in our community. And while you're doing it on Saturday, really should remind people to try and do that every day of the year, because local dollars really have a greater impact on our community in terms of the overall value that they generate and the jobs they create. Again, I do wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and thank everyone for their assistance that they give to the city every day. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. And I also would like to thank everyone for coming down tonight and speaking, and certainly we'll do whatever we can to try to address the concerns that were raised. Also want to commend everybody involved with the holiday parade. I didn't march this year, but I got to watch it from the comfort of the SDCC classrooms downtown, which was a treat, so that was good. Also, we're getting into a lot of tree lighting ceremonies, and the Upper Union Street tree lighting ceremony is set for Tuesday, December 2nd at 6 p.m. at Trustco Bank. The event's going to include caroling by members of Calvary Tabernacle Church, a visit with Santa Claus, and hot chocolate and cookies. So they're also going to have a lot of caroling going on throughout the next few weeks. So that's always fun. And of course, Jim Salengo mentioned the downtown event. So I too would like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Kosher, seconded by Mr. Mudavera. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.